the Jewish Channel's Week in Review. Pope Francis I and his book-length dialogue with a Jewish leader, some of the most famous cupcakes in the world are kosher for Passover, and taking a look at Jewish life during the Civil War. It's the Jewish news that's changing your world right now in this episode of the Week in Review. Hello, and welcome to the Jewish Channel's Week in Review. I'm Stephen I. Weiss. As we go to air, President Barack Obama's visit to Israel and Palestine is taking place. We'll have more reporting and analysis on that in the coming weeks. The past week has seen the election of a new pope, Francis I, who had served as Cardinal Jorge Mario Bergoglio of Argentina. Rome's chief rabbi attended the pope's inauguration, which is reportedly the first time a Roman chief rabbi has done so. In his remarks, Francis thanked, quote, representatives of the Jewish community and the other religious communities for their presence. As a cardinal, Francis had been actively engaged in interfaith dialogue. In addition to multiple visits to synagogues and attendance at various Jewish communal events, Francis has visited Israel. And as pointed out in an essay by Alan Brill and Ronnie Perillis in the foreword, quote, the only book written by the Pope currently in print is a dialogue in Spanish between the then Cardinal Bergoglio and a rabbi. The book is Sobre el cielo y la tierra, or Regarding Heaven and Earth in English, and transcribes a dialogue between the then Cardinal and Rabbi Abraham Skorka of the Seminario Rabbinico Latinoamericano. As the only book in print by the Pope, it quickly sold a great many new volumes, reaching the top of Amazon.com's sales ranking. Brill and Perillis wrote, the most intriguing aspect for Jews may be that the first words the world may read by the new leader of the 1.2 billion-member church is a constructive conversation with a rabbi in which both men encourage interfaith amity. The Pope also shows his familiarity with Judaism and Jewish authors, especially the works of Abraham Joshua Heschel. Brill and Perillis go on to describe the now Pope's reckoning of the Holocaust. The Cardinal takes pains to discuss the Holocaust and its impact on the Catholic Church in great detail. Bergoglio says that the great question we must all ask about the Holocaust is not where was God, but where was man. The great powers just washed their hands. They knew much more than they said they did, Francis says. In the areas of practical matters of the relationship with the Jewish community, the then Cardinal wrote that the Church's archives from the period of the Holocaust should be made public. On Mideast peace, Bergoglio wrote in vague and broad terms of biblical figures, providing little clarity as to what he actually thinks of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict or what can be done about it. Meantime, another large entity that is coming to grips with its historic relationship with the Jewish people is the Republican Party. The Republican National Committee this week released a report on how to improve its outreach to voters after the 2012 elections and cites the Republican Jewish Coalition as an organization that symbolizes the success they're trying to achieve. One outside group that has been particularly successful at engaging its community and increasing its Republican support is the Republican Jewish Coalition. We should incorporate some of its tactics in our efforts. While President Obama earned an estimated 69% of Jewish votes in 2012, his surplus of Jewish votes in his re-election bid was somewhat smaller than it was in 2008, when he earned between 74 and 78% of Jewish votes. One of the 5 authors of the report was former White House spokesperson Ari Fleischer, who served under former President George W. Bush, and who is currently on the board of the Republican Jewish Coalition. But going back to a time when many Jews were visibly supportive of the Republican Party, the Civil War era. A new exhibit takes a look at the Jewish participation in that war, as Christian Needon reports.
A new exhibition about the American Civil War is about much more than just soldiers and battlefields. It's about the transformation of the Jewish people during a key period of its American history. Passages Through Fire, Jews in the Civil War, presented by the American Jewish Historical Society and Yeshiva University Museum, features plenty of photos, correspondence, weapons, and other artifacts to satisfy any history buff. But curator Ken Yellis said the exhibition highlights 2 key moments when immigrant European Jews made the choice to become empowered American citizens, with an assist from President Abraham Lincoln. Moments that were made possible by 20 years of unprecedented Jewish immigration to America.
In 1840, it's estimated there were about 15,000 Jews in the United States along the East Coast in urban centers. Over the next 20 years, the Jewish population in the United States increases tenfold. There were around 150. Some people think as many as 200,000. So that's a huge increase. and it has all kinds of impacts. For one thing, Jews have become much more visible.
That growing visibility came with its share of anti-Semitism, but a wartime Union Army ruling over religious observance mobilized community action against perceived anti-Jewish sentiment.
Something happens when the Union Army has to decide who can be a regimental chaplain during the Civil War.
A mostly Jewish regiment from Pennsylvania had elected a non-ordained Jewish chaplain. This raised a complaint from the newly formed Young Men's Christian Association, which helped certify the Union Army's chaplain service, one that was dominated by Protestants who aimed to keep it that way. But when the Secretary of War ruled against the regiment on ordination grounds, there was swift reaction.
The Jews start to organize. They get the regiment essentially to nominate Arnold Fischel, who is ordained but not a Christian. And they, in effect, force the Secretary of War again to enforce the law on the grounds of faith.
To see more from Passages Through Fire, Jews in the Civil War, currently on display at the Center for Jewish History, please tune into the full broadcast edition of the Week in Review.
Thank you, Christian. Finally, this week is Passover, and it's likely that a great many of us will be eating traditional treats. But as Meredith Gansman found, one of the more famous bakeries around is also getting into Passover products.
If you love cupcakes but didn't think you could have any for Passover, think again. The recent national cupcake craze began here at Magnolia Bakery. After the West Village Bakery's retro chic pastel cupcakes made its debut on an episode of Sex and the City in 2000.
Good. You haven't had a real crush in a while. Not since Big.
Big wasn't a crush, he was a crash.
Now, that one little bakery has become 11, with locations in Chicago, Los Angeles, and even in the Middle East, in Dubai, Kuwait, Beirut, and Doha. Turning 17 this year, the bakery became kosher certified in 2007, and ever since has been offering flourless treats for Passover. Although the flourless cupcakes themselves are not specifically certified as kosher for Passover. The president and chief baking officer of Magnolia Bakery sees Passover as an opportunity to engage in noshing nostalgia.
You know, as a kid, you always look forward to certain holidays that you know you're going to get that dessert at that time, and then that's it for the rest of the year.
From macaroons to matzah crunch, you'll be craving these sweets even after Passover is over.
My favorite is the matzah crunch, and I've been known to eat an entire bag of this by myself, which is a little scary because it is kind of large, but it's one of those sweet treats that you eat a little piece, then you go a little further.
Resembling a candy bar, Magnolia Bakery's Matzah Crunch takes the traditional chocolate-covered matzah to a whole new level.
So it's got a toffee base poured over the matzah, then the chocolate poured over the matzah, then a white drizzle, and then a few more toffee bits on top just to seal the deal.
But at Magnolia Bakery, the cupcakes are the stars, and not to be passed over this holiday. Their flourless chocolate cake cupcakes can be paired with whatever kind of icing you like.
Today we're showing a variety of peanut butter buttercream, which is one of my all-time favorites. It is so good. And then a caramel meringue buttercream, or a whipped vanilla buttercream, which is absolutely delicious as well.
To see more of the delicious Passover treats available at Magnolia Bakery, tune in to the full broadcast version of the Week in Review. Happy Passover!
Thank you, Meredith. That's all for this week. From all of us here at the Jewish Channel, enjoy Passover and be well. The Jewish Channel is available on cable. Time Warner Cable Channel 528, IO Optimum Channel 291, RCN Channel 268, Bright House Channel 330, Verizon Fios Channel 900, Cox Channel 1, Frontier Communications, and now on Comcast Cable in the on-demand menu under Premium Channels. For more information, visit tjctv.com.